Well, I think what's happening here in Atlanta is they're negotiating, publicly negotiating is really what's going on. We know that if there's one guy who'd be able to walk through the doors of most NFL teams and be like, yeah, I'm a $20 million a year coach. If you're not comfortable with that, then we can just end the discussion now.
I'm the answer to all your prayers.
There's one guy that walks in the door that way. It's Belichick. And the only other guy with that kind of gravitas who would be able to say, no, you're going to let me do both the GM and the other job is Jim Harbaugh. And Harbaugh is still apparently farting around with Michigan. What are you doing that for? I know why, Christian. To drum up interest. So really, to me, the Atlanta Falcons, they're engaging in what I would call smart business. Bill's already had 2 chats. We know Arthur Blank likes the guy. I don't know if everyone is getting taken to the boom boom room on a Saturday night for a personal dinner with the owner yet, or if it's just, the people that they're checking in with via Zoom or whatever, because they've at least got to keep Belichick on the hook to try to get the number down the best they can and to sort of be able to negotiate against him. Because really, the Falcons, they're under the Christian Fauria 3Ds. It's the whole dumb, juicy, and desperate. They don't want to do anything dumb. They're desperate, which is why they want Bill. And they're trying not to be, D's about it by not looking at Bill and just being like, nah, we don't know. Because if somebody else knocks on the door, he could be gone. So now it just looks like it's kind of a, normal process before they eventually land on, we all know where they're going to land, which is Bill Belichick being the head coach in Atlanta.
So does it have anything to do with the new rule when it comes to, because the NFL has been trying to slow down the head coaching hiring process for a while now, paying respect to the teams that are in the playoffs. So after the divisional round is when you can talk to teams that are still in the playoffs.
Right.
Via Zoom. You can have meetings with them via Zoom. So I thought, because I see this tweet from Schefter. It says Falcons are interviewing Texans OC Bobby Slowick today. They also will be meeting this week with Mike Vrabel and Jim Harbaugh in person and scheduling other in-person head coaching interviews as well. Their head coach search is said to be, quote, wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Bill Belichick. I'm the greatest of all time. I'm your savior. I'm going to roll in with the white hat. I'm going to fix all your problems, and it's never going to be awkward. And then I hear that you're going to slow play this and negotiate publicly with me, Bill Belichick, and you're going to bring in some slap OC from the Texans named Bobby Slowick.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way I think he thinks in his head. Go screw. You're not going to slow play me. I slow play you.
Well, that's what he would like to do. However,
wait, hold on. But
he's got to play the hand that is dealt.
I think that my personal feeling is that they have to kind of go through the motions because of this new rule. And I don't know if they've interviewed a black coach. I don't know if because they have to. It's the Rooney rule.
I do believe I do believe they have satisfied some of that in their interviews, but I'm not sure. I keep thinking that they might have talked to like Raheem Morris or someone like that.
And let me ask you this, Gresh. Is it absurd to believe that maybe some people just aren't really into the whole Bill Belichick experience?
Well, I'm sure there's got to be some of that within the Atlanta organization, but it also feels like it really lands in the lap of 2 guys. Rich McKay, who's been there forever, who is the Jonathan Kraft of that situation, and owner Arthur Blank. And it always is uncomfortable for me to bring this up because it sounds like I'm being a fatalist or that I have these guys on like a death pool or something like that. But again, we have another owner who's crested 80 years old, and this guy has never won a championship. At least Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft have rings on their fingers from their success of being an owner, and the one guy in all of this who has been almost there and had it ripped away from him is Arthur Blank. None of the other owners really, in terms of these jobs that are open, they haven't had a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter and been that close. So it does make me wonder the motivation of if Arthur Blank were 60 versus 80, I do wonder with which the sense of urgency and he would operate.
Yeah, because I would say if you meet with Bill, you're obviously impressed. If you meet with Harbaugh, I don't know how you can't be impressed. And if you meet with Vrabel, I think you're going to be smitten with him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you probably assume that that Bill is the, okay, windows slightly open. I'm 82. I'm Arthur Blank. Let's hit it right in the sweet spot, and then we'll all go our merry way.
Short sprint, 3 years.
Right?
Let's go. Yeah.
And the other two, this is a long dance.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 10-year relationship. We're building a program, a sustainable program, right? That's the Mike Vrabel Harbaugh way. Bill, I can, and then once you miss out on Harbaugh and once you miss out on Vrabel, they're not coming around again. And if they do, you'll be 87, 88, and maybe, again, you'll go back to the quick fix idea. So the more time that goes by, I think the more time that these other candidates are able to convince Arthur Blank that Bill isn't the right candidate, that he is the wrong choice. And there are other people in the building saying, you don't know. Have you heard what's going on up in the Northeast? They're all singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead." They're all happy he's out of the room.
Sure.
Everybody's happy now.
Sure.
And
in 3 years, we might be sitting where the Falcons are on 3 years of 7-10 and hoping for wishing for the glory days.
Do you think Bill Belichick has a better chance of changing over that program than Harbaugh does?
I mean,
honestly, do you think?
Oh, yeah, because I think with
really?
Because with Harbaugh, he'll look at it and be like, nah. Like Harbaugh will, I would think, Harbaugh might walk in and look at it and be like, nah, I need to kind of tear part of it down to get it to where I want to be. Harbaugh, to me, gets a full 5 years. Whereas I think if you bring in someone like Belichick, it's a 3-year sprint. Not for his record, but for whichever owner hires him to try to get them to a Super Bowl and win the damn thing. But I think with Harbaugh, because I think Harbaugh will end up having the leverage to get control of personnel as well.
Who's turned around more programs in the last 20 years, Bill or Harbaugh?
Well, Harbaugh, because he's had to, because Bill did the unthinkable, which was be great or good or great for 20 years.
I say what, if you look at...
And it's apples to shoes in terms of the comparison.
I don't know. I think if you look at...
Well, before NIL, recruiting in college, which was the overwhelming majority of the years that Jim Harbaugh spent at Michigan, it's night and day, even in that world, let alone compared to the pros.
He took Stanford, flipped that organization when USC was at its peak, and then turned them into a powerhouse. It's hard to get in. It's hard to stay in. He recruited smart, tough players, and they were good for a long time.
And got luck.
He got more than luck. I mean, he
also had a why was that program in that league when USC was cheating like a mofo? Yeah, but how were they that good?
But look at
he had the number one pick at quarterback.
Look at the offensive linemen that they had, the tight ends they had, the backs they had, the defensive players on Stanford's team before he got there were stiff and slow. Completely flipped it. Then he goes to San Francisco, completely turns that around. Then, oh, by the way, let me go to Michigan, okay? Let me completely turn that around. So my point is, if anyone has a track record of turning around programs at all levels and doing it spectacularly well, it's Harbaugh, not Bill. So I'm just saying, like, I see Arthur Blank going, I mean, listen, do I want the quick fix or do I want the long sustained success that most you know what I want? I want the Mike Tomlin experience. What I want.
Well, here's the thing. With Arthur Blank, how does he view what has gone on the last 3 years? I mean, does Arthur Blank look at this roster the way we all assume the Crafts look at the Patriots roster, where there's some pieces, but, man, this thing, you got to tear it down more, or it's going to take a year or two to be able to get it right with some of the bigger mistakes that have been made down there in Atlanta? Because everyone looks at it and says, oh, you got a tight end that was supposed to be the bee's knees, and you got Drake London, and you got Bijan Robinson, and this guy and that guy, and ba-ba-ba. But what have been their real issues? Defensively, they're not great. Their lines of scrimmage are awful. I mean, they need to be. They got Chris Lindstrom, who's an all-pro type guard, but they've got issues there as well. So does Arthur Blank look at it and says, yeah, I got all these shiny toys, but they can't do nothing. Does blank look at it and think someone needs to come in and repurpose the roster or rebuild that roster down there?
So is this because a part of me feels like, is it crazy to think that Bill will be left out when the music ends?
Well, the LA Chargers thing is not materializing at all. Like there was the
For
dude.
Bill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it.
The only name I heard of is the Falcons. Like no one of these other teams have all the other teams have zero interest in him.
You know what? I hate to say this, but it kind of feels like the old Stanford coach David Shaw has become the Marvin Lewis of this year's hiring cycle.
Really?
Yeah, he's interviewed in there was even a text that said I think he might have in Atlanta. No, but he interviewed I forget where it was the other day. He interviewed with the Titans the other day. He's gotten a couple of kind of head coaching kicks. Well, look, David Shaw was one of those guys even when he was in college where it was, this guy's destined for the pros whenever he wants to get there. Now he's like, I don't know, 53 years old or something, and people are like, maybe you missed your chance. But he's been in on a bunch of head coaching interviews, David Shaw. So he's a guy that has allowed people to check Rooney Rule boxes along the way. But is he a legit serious candidate? Like I heard Vrabel early, and then it's been real quiet on Vrabel right now.
Yeah, it is odd to me. You would think that I thought by the time we got back that there would have been like this week at least there's going to be some sort of announcement that the Atlanta Falcons have agreed to terms with Bill Belichick, because it wasn't on Friday Josina Anderson saying like all that's left is the details. Mm-hmm. Like wasn't that like the report on Friday?
Kind of, yeah. And it looks like they were going down that road.
We just got to do all this stuff about the money. Blah blah blah. No, nothing yet.
Antonio Pierce to get locked in over the weekend.
Oh, what a mistake!
I know. I was going to. I wanted to tee you up on that as to why do you feel that way?
There's this weird love affair with interim coaches with the current players, and what the Raiders are doing are buying into that whole mentality, which I think is a trap. Let's listen to our players and give them exactly what they want.
Now, you know what? There are a lot of different modern thinkers in our audience who will do of course you go young and you listen to people like me because
everybody needs a voice.
I've got great ideas, boss. But you were an NFL player. Why is listening to the players so dangerous? I have a theory on it.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Because they don't know what they don't know. They're players. That's why they're players. Not every player gets into the world of coaching and thinks about things from an organizational standpoint from a 35,000-foot view. I've told the story before as it was told to me. There were a lot of Patriot players in 1997 who were way giddy for Pete Carroll because Bill Parcells was a bit of a dink. 3 years later, the majority of those guys who were like, yeah, let's go get Pete, were out of a job in another locale, and so was Pete Carroll. There's a little bit of the slippery slope when it comes to listening to the players. There's an old line in running teams. If you listen to the fans, you'll be sitting with the fans. And that's what I kind of feel like it is. You need to listen to them. They are a part of your equation. It's like all-star voting, but they're not the whole equation. And it kind of feels like old Tommy Boy Davis is like, well, Daddy would have done this, so I'm going to do it too.
See, there's an aspect of this that we had that with the Redskins and Joe Gibbs when I was there. Gibbs was so just aware of wanting to please the players and give them a voice that we used to fight and have meetings over the stupidest stuff, the most irrelevant stuff when it came to winning football games, jerseys, cleats, hotels, travel times, off days, Monday, workout schedule. It was so selfishly tailored to each person's individual needs. So everybody was bickering about it. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most dysfunctional team I've ever been around. Sure, it was literally like a comedy of errors, and Gibbs would sit up there, and everybody would stand up. We want white cleats. Like, what? Are we arguing over the color of our stupid cleats? Yes, we are. That's what's important to them. And that's when you know you have a losing team. I want a voice. I want the ball on first down. We shouldn't practice as hard. Why do you make us run? The lifting schedule sucks. Why is the food so bad? We want sushi on Fridays. We want this on Friday. I mean, what the F? I think Mayo, and we'll do it at 12 o'clock, is in danger of falling into this category with the whole, I want to make sure all the players have a voice. It's good in theory, to your point, and it's a great line. If you listen to the fans, you're going to sit with them. I wish what kind of phrase could you use to turn that into the coaches?
Well, if you listen to the players, you'll be sitting with the ones that get cut by the guy who replaces you type thing. I mean, that's about it.
It's like it's good. I always feel like it's good in theory, but I've never really seen it practically work.
If I were an owner in, say, the situation that Robert Kraft was just in, and I could get in front of the players, the way I would position it is, you deserve to have a voice. Just understand, you're not the voice. I'm the voice of the organization. Ultimately, it's my call, but you guys matter. So let's have a discussion about it. But it feels like with the modern player, there'd be one or two who'd be like, well, like if it were Arizona, Kyler Murray'd stand up. You'd have to look real hard to see him stand up.
Stand in a chair.
But he would be like, well, I'm the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like the whole, I'm the bee's knees here. You should listen to me type thing. They did part of that, by the way, and we know how that all ended up working out.
And let me just add this before we break. I can tell you, I've never been on a team where I haven't had a voice. Like this whole new narrative where players need a voice. They've always had a voice. I've never not been able to go talk to a coach. I've never been on a team where there hasn't been some sort of players committee, some sort of leadership council, captains. We've always had a voice. So I don't understand. And all the things that players want have been handled through the NFL, a collective bargaining agreement when it comes to practice time, practice, and all the other bull crap. When can you play? I don't understand. Oh, you know what? You want a voice? Yeah. Hey, coach, I want to tell you, like, you really hurt my feelings the other day when you yelled at me in front of everybody. I really don't like being called out in practice, and you're shaming me. It's not the way to teach anybody. You're embarrassing me. Can you please stop? Oh, fine. Next. Hey, coach, my socks are too big, and I don't want to wear pants anymore, and I don't like knee pads. Okay, got it. Next. That's the type of bullcrap you're going to be hearing.